Have you ever told someone something true about yourself and heard them answer, no, that's not who you are? Maybe the person loves you. Maybe the person has known you for years. Maybe the observation even contains something real, but the sentence doesn't feel like recognition. It feels like someone closing a door from the outside. That's the paradox we're exploring today. Other people can see things about us that we can't easily see ourselves. Love can give someone a close view of our patterns, our changes, and the way we affect other people. But closeness can also make someone feel unusually certain. The person stops offering a perspective and starts announcing an identity. So, how can love help you feel known without becoming the authority that invents who you are? Because remember, narcissistic abuse can subsume you into the shared fantasy until you may no longer recognize yourself. So that doesn't make ordinary disagreement or poor listening narcissistic abuse. Today, I want to show you how to separate what another person has actually noticed from the identity that person assigns to you. The distinction is simple. Recognition is not definition. Let's go back to our previous example, Alex. Across this series, Alex has changed. Alex is less accommodating than before. Alex names limits earlier. Alex no longer volunteers to solve every problem in the room. But Alex still cares about loyalty, still notices when someone is uncomfortable, and still has strong impulse to protect people from conflict. One evening, Alex tells a new partner, Jordan, I think I'm becoming more direct. I'm trying to say what I need before resentment builds. Jordan answers, you're not direct. You're still afraid of conflict. You just disguise it better now. I know you. Now, Jordan may have noticed something real. Alex may still avoid conflict in ways Alex doesn't fully recognize. But listen to what happens in the last sentence. I know you. The sentence can mean a couple of things. It can mean, I've spent time with you and I recognize a pattern. Or it can also mean, my interpretation outranks your account of yourself. Those are very different uses of the word knowing. And that's what I'm trying to point out here. For this episode, I want to use the phrase relational recognition. This is my working definition for today, not a clinical diagnosis or a validated psychological construct. Relational recognition is what happens when another person notices and communicates something about you while leaving you free to consider it, question it, revise it, or decline the interpretation. In more simple language, someone holds up a mirror but doesn't claim to own the face. But why is this distinction important? Because feedback can do two things all at once. It can reveal information you need, and it can also carry an interpretation that doesn't fully belong to you. Let me give you an example. Jordan says, in the last three difficult conversations, you waited until I asked what was wrong before you named your limit. That's something Jordan can point to. Then Jordan adds, I think you waited because you were afraid of conflict. Now, that statement, Jordan has moved from what happened to what it meant. The interpretation may be accurate, partly accurate, or entirely wrong. So Alex answers, part of me was afraid. Part of me was also trying to decide whether this was a real limit or a passing irritation. Alex has access to internal context Jordan doesn't have. But Alex can also minimize fear or understand the delay more clearly later. Internal access is important, but it still has limits. And one difficult conversation cannot settle the question. If Alex repeatedly waits, becomes resentful, and speaks only after Jordan keeps asking what's wrong, future conduct gives both people more information. A pattern becomes recognizable across contexts and time. So far, none of this is new or mysterious. There's what Jordan observed, what Jordan inferred, what Alex reports internally, and what repeated conduct may eventually show. The new question I'd like you to consider is, who gets the final word about what all of that says Alex is? Now, this is where authorship enters. Authorship means Jordan's interpretation can inform Alex without taking control of Alex's identity. Alex can say, the observation fits. Part of the interpretation fits. I don't think it explains everything, and I'm going to watch what I do next. That answer doesn't make Alex immune from accountability. Jordan remains free to decide what repeated behavior means for trust, closeness, or participation. Alex retains authorship of identity. Jordan retains Jordan retains authority over Jordan's own boundaries and choices. That's relational recognition. It doesn't force us to choose between only I know me versus the people closest to me know the real me. Both are too absolute. You have to access your internal experience. Other people have access to your observable impact. You may miss what they see. They may misunderstand what they can't see. Recognition leaves room for both internal experience and observable impact. In the book OLNE, we find a relational foundation for this. It describes particularities as the unique intricacies of each person and encourages curiosity driven conversations to better understand and accept those differences. The book OLNE frames intimacy in its Intimacy Model of Relationships, IMR, as how well people know and understand one another. That knowledge includes desires, fears, dreams, values, quirks, and the details that make someone who that person is. But the model doesn't treat knowing as completed file. It joins intimacy to continued communication, authenticity, boundaries, autonomy, and an identity that remains larger than the relationship. So, intimacy isn't the right to finish another person's sentences forever. It isn't a license to decide what every silence means. It isn't ownership of private history. And it is not permission to mold someone back into the version that made the relationship easier. Closeness doesn't remove the limits on what one person can know or claim about another. The book OLNE frames disclosure as voluntary. Open communication is inspired by emotional safety rather than extracted through punishment or coercion. A person can invite honesty without claiming unlimited access to information another person prefers to keep private. See the chapter or the section on truth about lies. That means Jordan can say, I think I'm seeing a pattern. Do you want to hear it? Alex can say yes, no, or not now. Jordan can still decide what the available conduct means for trust, closeness, or continued participation. What Jordan cannot claim is that closeness creates ownership of Alex's inner life. In other words, it's saying, because I love you, I know what you really feel. Because I know you, you owe me disclosure. Because I understand you, your disagreement proves denial. Recognition creates no entitlement to disclosure, access, possession, compliance, or control. The practical boundary becomes clearer when an interpretation is no longer allowed to be questioned. For example, saying, I notice that you go quiet is an observation. I think you go quiet because you're angry with me. That's an interpretation. You go quiet to punish me, and denying it only proves that I am right. That's something else. The interpretation has been made impossible to question. Alex is no longer being invited to answer. Alex is being told that every possible answer confirms Jordan's conclusion. That is where recognition turns into definition. It isn't the confidence of a statement by itself, it's the closed structure around it. Agreement proves Jordan is right. Disagreement also proves Jordan is right. Alex's inner experience is no longer information. It's become an obstacle to Jordan's certainty. And behavior still counts here. If Jordan repeatedly disappears after conflict and never repairs, Jordan can decide that the pattern doesn't support the relationship Jordan wants. Jordan doesn't need final knowledge of Alex's identity or motive to make the decision. This distinction works in less dramatic moments too. For example, a parent can say, "You've always been you've always been the sensitive one." Maybe that once named something real, but now every disagreement is filtered through that. The adult child's objection becomes more sensitivity. A friend says, "You're the spontaneous one," then treats every new responsibility as evidence that the friend has become boring. Or a partner can say, "You don't really want independence. You're just scared of needing me." Each statement may contain an observation. The problem begins when when a familiar description becomes a role the person is required to keep performing. The book Oelani contrasts learning from your decisions and their outcomes with allowing other people's opinion to determine how you feel about yourself. That doesn't require sealed independence. It doesn't mean nobody gets to tell me anything about me. Taken as absolute, that stance can also make useful feedback harder to receive. It means, though, someone can influence your self understanding without owning it. Someone can identify a harmful pattern without defining your entire person. Someone can know you deeply and still be wrong about you. You can reject an interpretation and still examine the behavior underneath it. Let's go back to Jordan and Alex. A defining statement sounds like this: You're still conflict avoidant. I know the real you. An observation that leaves room for an answer sounds like this: I have noticed that you named limits earlier than before, but you still seem to wait when you think the limit may disappoint me. Does that fit your experience? Jordan named an observation and offered an interpretation, but left room for Alex to answer. Did you catch that? Alex might say, Yes, partly. I am afraid of disappointing you. I also need time to know what I want. I want to get better at telling you that I'm thinking instead of leaving you to keep asking what's wrong. Or Alex might say, The waiting is real, but fear isn't what I notice. Let me pay attention next time. Jordan doesn't have to accept either answer as complete. Future conduct will add information. Alex's authorship doesn't cancel Jordan's experience, and Jordan's experience doesn't appoint Jordan as the author of Alex. Even group agreement has a limit. If several people independently notice the same conduct, that convergence may deserve serious attention. It may affect accountability, trust, boundaries, or safety. But group agreement still doesn't become final authority over a person's identity. So what do you do with this information? Ask one trusted non-coercive person 2 questions. What remains recognizable in me? Where have you seen me change? Choose someone capable of offering specific observations without punishing disagreement. Not a group, not social media, not an estranged relative you hope will finally validate you, not someone who uses private information to control you. When the person answers, listen for the layers. What was observed? What meaning was added? What do you know internally? Is there a repeated pattern? What part of the response do you want to consider, question, or decline? You don't have to defend yourself immediately. You also don't have to accept the answer because you asked. You can say, that observation fits. I'm not sure about that interpretation. Or you could say, I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that yet, but I'll watch for it. Or you could say simply, that doesn't fit my experience. The other person may decline to answer. You may decline to discuss the response. This original editorial reflection, this is an original editorial reflection that I'm providing you, not a test, not a treatment, not validated method, not diagnostic instrument or proven intervention. Skip the exercise if asking for or discussing identity feedback would be unsafe or coercive. Prioritize distance and confidential support instead. Safety first always. Now return to the opening sentence that I provided you. I know you. It can be one of the warmest sentences in a relationship. It can mean, I've paid attention. I remember what hurts. I recognize what delights you. I can see a strength you forgot when you're afraid. But love keeps that knowledge humble. It says, this is what I see. Not, this is all you are. It stays willing to learn. It lets behavior count. It lets self-report add context. It lets patterns become clearer over time. And it leaves authorship where it belongs. Loving perception can reveal useful information about a person without becoming final authorship of that person's identity. In the book OLNE, look at the chapter on authority equals responsibility. Let love reflect you. Let it show you angles you couldn't see alone. Let it challenge the story you tell about yourself when your behavior says something else. But don't ask love to invent you. And don't use love to invent someone else. Recognition is intimate because another person sees you. Recognition remains loving because the person still leaves you free to answer. Thank you for watching, or thank you for recognizing this video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Whether silence means safety or someone went away. Tell me what love looked like before it looked like me. I keep reaching for the outline, but I want the thing I see. Where your body closes, where your hope begins. I'm learning the weather under your skin. I don't want the person I invented in the dark. I want your particularities, every strange and living part. I want your particularities, not the ache, not the mask. I want the way you open and the shape of what you ask. what you never say out loud, what you only hold. Tell me how you hear me when my words come out wrong. What kind of touch is easy? What kind of touch is gone? Where your body closes, where your hope begins. I'm learning the weather under your skin. I don't want the person I invented in the dark. I want your particularities, every strange and living part. I want your particularities, not the ache, not the mask. I want the way you open in the shape of what you ask. If I love you, let me learn you, slow and true and bare, the map of every caution, the names of what you fear. If I love you, let me meet you, new each day, each time. Not a borrowed little fantasy, but the real shape of your